Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Big Ten Quick Talk Podcast. If you have not already subscribed to the channel below, it is greatly appreciated when you do so. And I was on College Football with Sam's live stream the other day, Touchdown Talk Episode 5. I will link that in the description, and I will link his channel in the description. His channel is where you can find numerous different videos with takes all around the Big Ten and all around college football in general. He's a great guy. Go subscribe to him as well. And one of the topics we brought up were our Big Ten post-spring, early summer power rankings, and I will be going in depth into mine and bringing up some stuff that I did not bring up during the actual live stream. So let's get right into it. And you can see it on your screen now. We'll go from top to bottom, and I have my first grouping with 1 through 4. I think that is a clear grouping there, and I think most people would agree that Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State are all in this first tier, this first grouping. And my second grouping is numbers 5 through 8. I think USC, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Rutgers are all very close and similar in their total program power index, I would call it. And from there, I would say Washington and Iowa are in their own category. I think Michigan State and Northwestern are in their own category. Then Maryland on down, I think, are in the bottom tier. Now, when we talk about this bottom tier, let's go down to the bottom tier. I think that Illinois is not going to be very good. They lost a lot of good players, really solid players for them to the NFL draft. They are pretty high in returning production. But what does that mean when your best players left? And I'm not a big believer in Brett Bielema. I don't think he's a great recruiter, and he doesn't do very well on the field, in my opinion, either. So that's my take on Illinois being so low. I think the other ones are pretty understandable. Minnesota could be a little higher in other people's eyes, but so far through PJ Fleck's tenure, he's been on a downward trend. It was a couple 9-win seasons. Now he has gotten lower and lower if you were looking at this as a graph. Yes, last year was a 7-win season. Didn't feel like it to me. And they have an FCS quarterback coming in. Granted, he was a very good FCS quarterback, 6th-year senior Max Brosmer. I don't think he's that great. I think he's a bit overhyped. But that's my opinion. And it is May, after all. So we will see about that very soon. And to close out, I think Maryland's going to take a step back. I don't think they're quite as deep as last year, and I think the jury is still out on MJ Morris as their quarterback. I'm not sold on him at all. And losing Taulia Tagovailoa, who basically carried that team on his shoulders, really does hurt them. So I think it's a downgrade at the quarterback position, and they kind of just lost pieces everywhere. So yes, they will win a couple games here and there, but I don't expect them to do anything major. Moving on to the next grouping, I have the Northwestern Wildcats and the Michigan State Spartans in their own category here. I think they're going to be better than these bottom 6 teams, but I don't think they're going to be better than teams like Iowa and Washington. I think that Northwestern, they have one of the best coaches in the Big Ten in David Braun. David Braun worked with nothing last year. He really did. He got the job 5 minutes before the season, and he turned that into an 8-win team with an impressive win versus Utah. I know Utah was missing Cam Rising, but that was a pretty good Utah team as well. And they had a lot of talent on that team. So, Northwestern, I really think that they will be able to win games this year. I have them low-ish at 12 because I don't think they have quite as much talent. I think that they are really on the toward the bottom of this list if you're basing this off of talent. But I think with the right coaching, this team is about at the 12 range. Moving on to Michigan State. Michigan State has a different sort of scenario here with Jonathan Smith coming in from Oregon State. You have a lot of Oregon State players coming into this and mingling with this roster of Michigan State, which was a pretty bad-ish roster last year. It had some bright spots on it, but again, it was a pretty bad team last year. So I think that there are going to be a ton of growing pains. I really think there's going to be a lot of growing pains with this team, but I am extremely high on Aiden Childs. I think he could end up being a top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten after this season. Seriously, he is that talented. Yet, this team, I think, will struggle. They will have serious growing pains. And they do have to play the big three in Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan. So that will hurt them as well. But they will make some strides this season. They have a higher ceiling, in my opinion, because they have a good quarterback. And good is really underselling it. He's going to be a great quarterback, in my opinion. He's still very young, and he will make mistakes. He will. He's a dual threat quarterback. Dual threat quarterbacks make mistakes often, but I think that it will really carry over nicely into next year for them. I think this is more of a retooling year than a rebuilding year for them, and I think that they'll be able to win a lot of games. Moving on to our next tier here with Iowa at 9 and Washington at 10. I really thought that there was a big enough gap between Washington and Michigan State. Otherwise, I think this would have been another 4 team tier here, but I thought that there was enough, like I said. So moving to the actual substance here, Washington, I don't think they're going to have a TCU like drop off. They got talented players. Everyone is just going right, skipping right over Will Rogers, the quarterback from Mississippi State. Excuse me. But Will Rogers had stayed at Mississippi State and he wouldn't have gotten injured and he would have played the full season this upcoming year, he would have become the SEC's all-time leading passer. I'm dead serious. Go look it up. He's second in the SEC in all-time passing yards. And he's going to be good at Washington. The best year that Will Rogers had was in an air raid offense, and that is what Washington will run. Washington, I have some concerns about their wide receiver room as they lost everyone to the NFL draft. Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk. But I think Washington will settle into a nice 6 to 8 win season. They were 9th in the transfer portal rankings, so they have guys in there, not just Will Rogers, but they have other guys in there as well. Iowa's probably the most overrated team in the Big Ten, but I have to put them at 9 because they will win games this year. They will. Like I said about Kirk Ferentz on the live stream, he finds ways to win. He finds wins out of thin air. He does. And I don't think Cade McNamara is going to be great, but the D-line, they did lose some good starters to the NFL, but I think that they've retooled there, and I think that the defense as a whole will play pretty well. Like I said, Iowa, on paper, not great. They're pretty good. They're not great, like these teams coming up. But they will find these wins. You can bet on that. They will find wins when they're not supposed to. So, for that reason, among other reasons, I have them really coaching as well. I think that their coaching is great with Kirk Ferentz. People say that he's not a great head coach. I think that because he finds these wins, I think he's a good coach. Moving on to the second tier, starting with number 8, Rutgers. I would honestly have the Rutgers higher, but I did not like the fact that they went with Ethan Kaliakmanis over the incumbent Gavin Wimsatt. I think Wimsatt was a better fit for their offense and what they're going to want to do, but there were definitely limitations with Gavin Wimsatt. But on the other hand, Kaliakmanis wasn't that great either at Minnesota. He was not good at Minnesota. He wasn't Deacon Hill bad. He who shall not be named. Learn that one from Sam. Go check out his channel. But back to the point, they will run the ball a truckload with Kyle Monangai and a decent offensive line. It's not going to be elite, but it's going to be decent. And they do bring back some wide receivers, and they're going to play a great defense as well. And they do have an easier schedule. They miss the Big East, the Big Ten East 3 that they would have played that they did play every single year in Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, so they really get the load off this year. They do have to play some tough teams, but I think coupled with that and the fact that this team is primed and ready to go, I think that Rutgers will be a scary. It's weird saying it, but I think they're going to be a scarier team to play in the Big Ten. At number 7, I have Nebraska. Everyone saw the throws Dylan Raiola made in the spring game, but everyone needs to kind of chill when it comes to him. Yes, he's going to be a phenomenal player, but he is still a teenager, and we don't know how he's going to respond playing Colorado in supposedly a night game in front of 70,000, 80,000 fans screaming their heads off. So really, how is he going to react to that type of pressure? We don't know yet. He's still a teenager, like I just said. That being said, the defense looks scary, and it could be the best defense in the Big Ten. I'm serious. It really could. Michigan's defense is going to be really good. Ohio State's defense is going to be really good. Rutgers' defense is going to be very solid. But I think Nebraska's defense might be the scariest in the Big Ten with the scheme that they run, the 3-3-5, and their rotations really on defense. They rotate about 20 to 25 non-starters into the game on defense every game, keeping everyone fresh. Be that as it may, I do have questions in the secondary and at kicker. Their kicker missed 2 easy kicks in the spring game, so that's something I would keep an eye on. The schedule is insanely easy to start. It's conservative picking them to go 6-1 to start out the season. And 7-0, they'll be favored in all 7 of their games until they hit the Ohio State game. So they could really end in an 8-4, 9-win a season for the Huskers. Again, they look good on paper. They really do. The wide receiver room, I really like it. They have some experience and some young talent in there. The running back room, there isn't a true number one guy, but they have 4 guys that are extremely solid. And I really like Nebraska this year, but there are some cautionary things that we're not really going to go into here. Save that for a team-specific video coming up in the near future. Wisconsin, I have them slightly ahead of Nebraska. It's splitting hairs at this point because I think they're really the same program. In different ways, obviously, they're going to be different, and I think they're going to be rivals as well. Not set rivals, but I think that these 2 teams are really going to be mirror images of each other. To Wisconsin specifically, though, Luke Fickell making major improvements already from last year, as evidenced in their spring game, and getting experienced leaders in the transfer portal, such as Tyler Van Dyke to lead them at quarterback. Tyler Van Dyke's going to have his limitations, trust me, but he's going to be a solid quarterback. He has a higher floor and a lower ceiling. You know what you're going to get from Tyler Van Dyke. As long as he takes care of the football, they shouldn't be in too much trouble. And they got the number 1 linebacker in the transfer portal in Tackett Curtis. Bottom line, Wisconsin will be a thorn in every Big Ten team's side, regardless of ranking, whether they're Ohio State or Indiana. So I think that, Camp Randall is an insanely hard place to play. It's very underrated. They do play Bama, and they get Bama to come up to Madison at Camp Randall. So that game is going to be a huge game to watch as well for Wisconsin. And my last team, USC. USC, they do have some questions. They do. But when it comes to the offense, I don't trust anyone else more than Lincoln Riley. I really don't. I think Lincoln Riley will have this team operating like it is an elite offense, even if they don't have elite offensive players. He's going to make Millard Moss look elite and give him some really big draft stock this upcoming year. But will Millard Moss be that great as a player? I don't know. But I think Lincoln Riley is going to prop him up so much, especially with players like Zachariah Branch. So for USC, and I really did like the additions they made on the defensive side of the ball in the transfer portal. They got a couple corners from UCLA that I can't quite remember right now. Hopefully it comes to me soon. But USC's defensive staff as well is very it's almost elite in my opinion, the depth that they have in that room. But be that as it may, all 4 of these teams, UCLA, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Rutgers, I think are really, I was splitting hairs trying to separate them all out and rank them, but I think that they're all very close to each other as programs in the Big Ten. There's not too much to address in these top 4. Pretty basic. Pretty sure most everyone agrees with me. But at this point, it's tomato with them. So thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, like the video, and comment your thoughts down below. And I will see you in the next one.